Am I audible? Okay, Alhamdulillah. So here we are for yet another IPD session for another new topic. I would like to begin this session by calling upon Sister Ifat for the Qiraat. Over to you, Sister Ifat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ar-Rahman 'allama al-Qur'an. Khalaqa al-insana 'allamahu al-bayan. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bihusban. والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنحل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العظيم.
That was a melodious recitation, Sister Ifat. Barakallah Fiki. Now I would like to call upon Sister Sahla for the introductory talk.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulil ameen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. Now, today we are here to attend the 6th session of the Islamic Personality Development Program. Alhamdulillah, we are 2 weeks into the 2nd month of the course, and I hope all of you, we hope all of you have been able to benefit from this so far. So our class today will be on a very important topic, something that is so often forgotten and to be given its full seriousness. That is the topic of minor sins. So in today's session, we will be addressing the issue in depth, inshallah. So everyone sharpen your ears and listen in, and also be sure to turn off your social media notifications, and please don't scroll through the phone during the session. Be sure to pay full attention and give it your all, and do take notes for future reference and better understanding. And most importantly, purify your intentions, because your intention will decide the reward of your time spent here. So without taking up much more of your time, I call upon Brother Wafi Shihad to take the session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Am I audible? Can you see the screen? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, khaliq al-wujud min al-adam, wa ja'il al-nur min al-zulm, wa mukhrij al-sabr min al-alam, wa mulqi al-tawbati ala al-nadam, wa nashkuruhu ala al-masa'ib kama nashkuruhu ala al-na'am. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Alhamdulillah, we're actually going ahead with the sessions we're having, and we have been covering a lot of important topics. And in the last class, we talked about sins. We talked about desires. We talked about shahawat. We talked about the internal fancies and whims we usually have. We talked about how we should be controlling our desires. And most often, a lot of things that are internal desires direct us towards to, or push us towards to, it's to sins. And when it comes to sins, we all know that there are minor sins and major sins. So the topic we are going to be discussing today is about a category of sins that are most often undervalued or overlooked by a lot of people, but it is of serious consequence. It is of serious consequence. We all know that we live in a world that is filled with sins. Wherever we go, wherever we look, wherever we hear, all we see are sins. Sins are widespread throughout the society, throughout the different echelons of the community. In each and every aspect of our reality today, in human existence, we see sins becoming widespread. We see halal becoming haram, and we see haram becoming halal. So it's very, very important we understand what these sins are, what the effects of sins are, and how to stay away from sins. Now, before directly going towards or ahead with the session, first and most importantly, just like the sister earlier mentioned, purify your intention, rectify your intention, rectify your intention. So while sitting in the class, your intention should be to be solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing this to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing this to improve yourself. You're doing this to improve your personality, to advance in life, to develop yourself. So if you have kept that intention, say yes in the chat. If you have kept that intention, say yes in the chat. Very good. Also make sure that you have a notebook with you, or it can be a journal. It's very important so that you don't forget the information that is talked about. A lot of people, they attend a lot of different sessions and they benefit from it, from the sessions, maybe for 1 day or 2 days, but after that, human memory, it actually spits out a lot of information that we don't usually recap often. So therefore, the things, if you don't write it down, you're surely going to forget it. So it's very important that you write it down. If you have a journal, if you have a diary, if you have a notebook with you, say yes in the chat. This is very, very important, regardless of what session you are attending, whose session it is, have a notebook with you. This is very, very important. And that shows how serious you are on this journey. If you're just sitting, in your bed or, laying down on your bed and listening to this, obviously you're doing an injustice towards the sessions. That's one thing. But on the other end, the amount of benefit you're going to have through the sessions is going to be very, very little. So show dedication towards yourself and sit up straight, have a notebook, and start taking notes. And most importantly, make sure you use the Zoom chat as much as possible and have your fingers on the keypad. And just like I always say, the amount of benefit you're going to have for the next 1.5 hours is going to depend on how much you engage and how much you interact, how much you focus and attend on these sessions and the contents that are spoken. So try to engage with me as much as possible. Then don't use social media while in the class, and an assignment task will be given at the end of the session, inshallah. And don't turn on your mic. Now to go ahead, let me give you 2 important situations. All right, I'll give you 2 important situations, and then I'm going to ask you a question based on these 2 situations. The first question is this: a friend is waiting for you at a place. You told him you would reach there in time, but you were late. When he called you up, you were still at home about to depart. He asks you, "Where are you?" You respond by saying, "I'm stuck in the traffic." So here, a friend is waiting for you and you're late. You didn't even get up from your bed. And, he's calling you, he's asking you, "Where are you, man? I'm waiting for you. Where are you?" And then you respond on the phone by saying, "Yeah, bro, I'm stuck in the traffic. The traffic is so much." While in reality, you're just laying on the bed, or you were sleeping, or you were watching TV or scrolling through your social media or whatever. That is the first situation. The second situation is this. you didn't do your homework. The teacher asked you the reason. You said you were ill, while in fact you were just lazy. So you were given a set of work as a homework to do, and you were lazy. You spent your time playing games or whatever. You didn't do the homework. And the next day, you went to the class, and the teacher asked everyone who has written the homework and who hasn't. And the one who hasn't written the homework, they were made to stand up. They were like obviously going to be given some punishment or something. And you are scared now. And the teacher asks you, why didn't you do the homework? And you say, I was very ill. I was sick. I had fever, headache, stomachache, or whatever. But in fact, you were just lazy. Okay, so these are two different situations with a very similar theme. Now, the question I would like to ask you is this: are these sins? Do you think these are sins? Saying to your friend that you're just stuck in traffic while you were sleeping, and saying to the teacher, you didn't do the homework because you were ill, while in fact you were just lazy. Okay. So the thing is, these are clearly sins. These are clearly sins. Now, just like I mentioned earlier, in Islam we have the major sins and the minor sins. We have the sab'a al-mubiqat, the 7 major sins, right? We have all heard it. The thing is, when we categorize between major sins and minor sins, a lot of people, they basically go through a psychological game in their head. And that is this: when they hear major, they think that these are the greatest sins, and these are the most vilest and most vulgar and most evil of sins. Yes, that is true. That is very true. But at the same time, there is another part of the coin. There is another side to the coin. When they give such heavy weight to the major sins, they basically overlook a lot of these minor sins. When they hear the word minor, they think that it is all right. It's just a small sin. If I do this, no problem, etc. So this is a problem that comes in the minds of people when they have the categorization of major and minor. Yes, major or minor sins, there's different categories of sins. Lying is not as, dangerous as killing another person or shirk. At the same time, these are sins. Sins are sins. If you do sins, of course, it's going to have effects. It's going to have spiritual effects. It's going to have psychological effects. It's going to have massive effects in the dunya as well as in the akhirah. It is very clear, just like everyone said, these are all sins. Now, to go ahead, we're going to be discussing this based on a hadith. Now, when I'm reading the hadith, I want you guys to read the hadith with me. From Sahl bin Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, beware of sins which are treated as being minor. Beware of sins which are treated as being minor. Just like a people who encamp in the center of a valley. So someone brings a stick of firewood and someone else brings a stick until they are therefore able to bake their bread. Likewise, sins which are treated as being minor, for which the person is taken to account, will destroy him. Will destroy him. Was reported by Ahmad 5/331 and others. Okay. I want you guys to read it again in your own voice. If you can, read it out loud. After reading it, say yes in the chat. After reading it, say yes in the chat. From Sahl bin Sa'ad radiallahu anhu said that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, beware of sins which are treated as being minor, just like a people who encamp in the center of a valley. So someone brings a stick of firewood and someone else brings a stick until they therefore are able to bake their bread. Likewise, sins which are treated as being minor and for which the person is taken to account will destroy him. If you have finished reading it, say yes in the chat. Okay. Now this is a very, very, very serious hadith. It's a very, very serious hadith. And the meaning of this hadith is so deep that it should change the entire lens by which we look at sins. Because sins will ultimately destroy a person. Some sins that we think is very minor, if they add up, it can really, really destroy us. It can really, really destroy us. And a lot of us, we are in a comfort zone when we think that, of course, we are not committing the major sins. Of course, we are not committing shirk. Of course, we are not committing adultery or fornication or rape. Of course, we are not killing another person. So we all think that we are safe in one way or the other. But in fact, here the Prophet ﷺ is saying, those minor sins which you neglected can destroy you. can destroy you. So this is very, very, very important. We'll be discussing what these minor sins are. We'll also be discussing the effects of these sins, inshallah. So just like I mentioned earlier, there are two types of sins. We have the major sins and the minor sins. The major sins and the minor sins, we have all learned this in the madrasa, so I don't think that I will need to be discussing what all major sins are. We all know the sab'a al-mubiqat, ash-shirku billah. We all know about fornication. We all know about killing another person. This is all well established. So they are the major sins. Then we have the minor sins. Then we have the minor sins. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of people, they neglect the minor sins, but they don't understand. What they don't understand is that minor sins are still sins. Minor sins are still sins. Okay, just because some actions are jurisprudentially considered as a minor sin doesn't make it a light thing. Doesn't make it a light thing. If you look at the lives of the Sahaba, they considered minor sins as great, grave evils. Great, grave evils. There is the story of a Sahabi. He was, once walking through the road, and, at that time, like the homes, many of the homes, they did not have, doors, because many people, they were very poor. So they just had curtains as doors. So while he was just walking, the wind flew, and there was a curtain like that was just flown, and it just opened, and by mistakenly he just looked at the home, and like inside, like there was a woman. She was not properly covered. She was covered, but she was not properly covered. All right, as we know, the head is an awra for women. We know all these things. So from the perspective, like what he did was by mistake, number one, and number two, like it was a very small glance, like maybe it wasn't like 1 second or maybe less than 1 second glance. He did that, and he was crying and crying for days and months. For days and months. For a lot of people, this might seem like a very small thing. I mean, just ask yourself, while you are, going outside, how many times have you had that minor glances accidentally, knowingly or unknowingly? Let me ask you this. You are driving your car, you're driving your bike, and you were just going, and there was a billboard in which the woman's awra or the man's awra is not completely covered. And like you were just driving and you're looking at the road, but by mistake, like you just looked at the billboard. You just neglected it off. Like this is a very small thing. I mean, like it's not that big of a crime. It's not that big of a crime. And these justifications are made in our minds. And that is the mindset of today's people. But if you look at the Sahaba, they considered minor sins as very, very grave things. Very, very grave things. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he said, indeed, Allah forgives major sins, so do not despair. So do not despair. And indeed, Allah punishes for minor sins, so do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. Don't think that these small things are going to be passed off. And you may not know, in the Yawm al-Akhirah, in the Yawm al-Qiyamah, in the day of judgment, when you are being judged, you will see a whole pile of sins that are as big as Mount Uhud. It'll be as big as that big mountain. And you'll be surprised, like, where did all these sins come from? And it'll be those minor sins which you neglected. It'll be those minor sins which you neglected, the small white lies that you said, the small white lies that you said, the small glances that you took, the small glances that you took, the small words that you spoke. Subhanallah. So we got to be really, really careful about these minor sins. We should never, ever neglect these minor sins. We should never, ever neglect these minor sins. Many people have the habit of considering some actions as minor sins and brushing the seriousness under the rug. Brushing the seriousness under the rug. And this is also very, very important. Committing the sin is one thing, and looking at the entire sin as a very minor thing is another thing. Okay, that itself is a huge, serious problem in the society. This mentality is dangerous, and it doesn't signify a sound heart. So if you need to know whether you have a sound heart, if you need to know whether you have good iman, if you know that you have a pure heart or not, just look at the way you are perceiving these sins. If you're just looking at every sin as a very minor thing, as a very small problem that doesn't need to be given much focus, know that your heart is not pure. And also know that you have been influenced by the liberal paradigm. If you look at one of the tenets of liberalism, and liberalism, as we all know, it's a postmodern philosophy that that arose in Europe during after the Renaissance period. Now, liberalism, one of the tenets of liberalism is looking at religious principles as very lexical. which means the things that are considered as sins, they'll apply harm principle. They'll employ various liberal theories and philosophies to make it look like it's not that big of a problem. It's not that big of a problem. For example, like when you go to college, these liberals, they will say, it's all right for men and women to sit together, to dance together, to joke together without any boundaries, right? Without any boundaries. And the people, like, the good Muslims who might have thought that it was a big problem at the start, like they will try to justify in their minds. They'll try to apply the liberal harm principle, and they will think, like, what is the problem with, sitting together? I mean, there is no harm in this, like nobody's getting harmed. So what is the problem? Have you heard people saying it? Have you heard people saying it? Justifying sins with rational, liberal, philosophical, and postmodern ideological justifications. That is a huge problem. That mentality in of itself, it's the root of a lot of problems in the society. And that paradigm can be rooted back to liberalism. Now, that is a different topic. We'll be discussing that in the upcoming sessions as well, inshallah. Now, this mentality, is that right or wrong? Is that right or wrong, that mentality? It is wrong. It is very clearly wrong. And it's more wrong than the sins that have been committed. Because the sins are sins, you're going to be punished for that. At the same time, that mentality itself will lead you to more sins. Because you're just going to look at every single thing as a very small crime. As a very small crime. Like you'll just start neglecting everything. You'll start making excuses. You'll start making justifications. For example, when you talk to pornography addicts, there are a lot of these addicts who come for counseling. And when you talk to them, they have been desensitized to it, and they think, I'm not harming anyone. I'm not doing anything, bad per se. Like nobody's getting hurt, so it's all right for me. I've seen a lot of people making this justification. It's a very, very idiotic justification, to be honest, because he's actually harming himself. He's deeply harming himself, right? With regards to other evil practices or other problematic practices, we see the liberal side trying to justify and normalize all these things. For example, masturbation is all right, pornography is all right, taking drugs if it is for recreational purpose with control, it's all right. Sitting together, men and women, and just enjoying time with each other, it's all right. Everything becomes all right if you apply this mentality. So we got to be really careful and introspect within ourselves whether we are having this mentality or not. And most often when we are completely influenced, when we are completely engaging in this particular environment, for example, if you're a student who's studying in central universities, we don't need to go to central universities to see this. Even in the state level, colleges back in Kerala or whatever state you are in, the liberal influence is very deep. So when you spend 2 years and 3 years in these colleges, in these environments, know that knowingly or unknowingly, you are going to be affected in one way or the other. In one way or the other. And I've spoken to multiple people with regards to this. First year, we'll talk to them. They'll come for different, organizations, meetings and everything. We'll talk to them. We can clearly see that these people have clear-cut Islamic principles. But after 3 years, when we talk to them and we ask them about their ideas and their thoughts and their perceptions, we can clearly see they have changed. They have clearly changed. The way they view hijab, the way they view prayer, the way they view religion as a whole, it has been changed. And most of them, like, they're unconscious of this change. They don't know that they have changed. They don't know that they have changed. And this change has taken place deeply, subconsciously. So we got to look at this and we got to see whether we have developed that mentality or not. We got to see whether we are neglecting sins. Because if you are neglecting sins, that is a symptom of us being influenced by these philosophies and these ideologies. So this is very, very problematic. And one of the major small sins that a lot of people committed are the small lies, the white lies, right? Is lying a sin in Islam or not? Is lying a sin? Yes, it's very clearly a sin. It's very clearly a sin. And the more one lies, the more the heart becomes desensitized to it and becomes hardened. It becomes hardened. For example, imagine like you were lying for the first time, maybe for the first time, but in the earlier phase of your life, when you were lying, you'll feel scared, right? You feel scared, you'll feel your heartbeat, getting faster, etc. Have you ever felt this while you were small and you were, telling lies? Obviously, everyone tells lies. Like when you were telling lies at the first time, your heartbeat getting faster, you're scared. Like, what am I doing? This is wrong. And that is a natural fitra there. There is a natural fitra, the natural fitra. But then the more you go ahead with life, the more you go ahead with life, the more you continue engaging in lying, what basically happens is your heart gets hardened, and what happens? You don't feel that sense of pain in your heart. You don't feel that sense of pain in your mind. You just brush it off. You neglect it as a very small thing. And this is very, very dangerous. It shows heart desensitization. And this can be very clearly seen. For example, for the students who are studying psychology, you might have heard about polygraph. Polygraph, all right? Now, polygraph is, basically refers to a set of procedures that actually, to see whether, a person is lying or not. There's actually a machine called as lie detector machine. Have you guys heard about lie detector machine? Lie detector machine. Now, okay, there's another misunderstanding here. Let me just clarify that as well for the students of psychology. So a polygraph is often incorrectly referred to as a lie detector test. All right, a device or a procedure that measures and records several physiological indicators such as, blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and skin conductivity. While a person is, asked a lot of different questions, and based on these questions, answers, a more series of questions are asked. All right. Anyway, so what I'm basically saying is the lie detector, they basically measure a lot of these different physiological symptoms and a lot of these different physiological responses and reactions. Now, even in lie detector, it is not that authentic. All right. Don't believe, what the lie detectors say. All right. There are authentic things in it, but there are a lot of false things as well. The entire procedure itself is problematic. And the reason it's problematic because like there was a time where in which a lot of, pathological liars were able to get out of lie detector test without, exposing themselves. You know why? Because normal people, like for example, the people who don't have the habit of lying, when they start lying, there are physiological changes in their body. Their heartbeat gets, their heartbeat gets faster, and some of them they start sweating. Their pupils, it dilutes and constricts. Like their facial expressions change, etc. But the people who are very used to lying, the people who are pathological liars, who are lying on a daily basis, who are lying and justifying, all the lies that they do, and they just say in their minds, okay, this is not a problem. So much so that lying itself is not considered as a sin for them. And when they lie during the lie detector test, do you think there's going to be any physiological changes in their body? Do you think there's going to be any physiological changes in their body? No, they have just gotten used to it. They have just gotten so used to it. And there are people who train themselves to do it. Like they lie so much that they have become master liars. They have become master liars. There was a very interesting case. A Russian agent infiltrated into CIA, Central Investigation Agency. A Russian agent infiltrated into the CIA, and he got, he went to the job. He started working as an agent for CIA. Even CIA was not able to, find that this guy or know that this guy was a Russian agent. He was so good at lying. He was so good at lying. And finally, they saw that some problem was happening inside the organization of CIA. So what they did was they made, everyone to do a lie detector test. And this guy very seamlessly, with very good flow, he passed the lie detector test. He passed the lie detector test. So what we need to understand is that like these tests are not fully authentic, number one. And number two, if you lie so much, like it's just going to be justified in your mind. Like you won't feel anything. That sense of pain will be taken away. That sense of pain will be taken away. So these small lies are going to be extremely problematic. It hardens your heart. It hardens your heart. The person who constantly says small lies will feel no guilt while saying major lies, right? The person who continuously commit minor sins will feel no guilt while doing major sins, because they have gotten used to justifying their sins so much so that even the major sins get justified very easily. Then the other kind of minor sin is this. It's not a minor sin, it's a major problem, but what I'm basically looking at is the sins that are overlooked and the sins that are most often neglected. Vulgar language, it has become a norm. It has become a very, very normal thing in conversations, saying F words, saying S words, saying, words that start with, every single alphabet in the English dictionary, in the Arabic dictionary, in the, like, whatever language you're speaking, it's there. It has become part of the norm. It has become part of the norm. If you look at the movies that are being released today, if you look at the songs that are being released today, how many of them doesn't have bad language? What do you think? Like, what percentage of it has no bad language? What percentage of it has no bad language? Like, rare, right? It may not even be there. It may not even be there. If you look at the songs that are being released today, like, most often, like, the ideology, the basic, messages that are being conveyed in these songs are extremely, extremely vulgar. There's extremely vulgar. A lot of these people, they use wild, vulgar language to seem cool, right? Saying F word and saying S word, like, you're very cool, right? You're very cool. And that's another sad reality. That's another very sad reality. And many Muslims, they often use this. Many Muslims, they use this. They use this. And, there was a brother who is actually studying here in Azhar University. And he's studying in Usuluddin, mashallah, very good brother. He's a hafil. And the thing is, this brother, like, he's from Indonesia, and this brother, like, he doesn't know the meaning of a lot of these words. Okay, this is another category of people who are very religiously oriented, and they don't know the meaning of these words, the F word and the S word. He doesn't know the meaning. Like, very naive, like, very innocent. Like, they have been protected from the external, environment, so much so that they don't know the meanings of these things. He grew up in a very religious, family, going to religious madaris. He graduated from an institute in Indonesia. He came to Azhar University and is continuing his education here. And he doesn't know the meaning of these things. And, like, most often, a lot of the Indonesian vloggers and all of these, like major social activists, they use a lot of these swear words. And for him, like, he's just saying it as like a very common thing. Like, he sees this as a very common, he basically thinks that it is very normal to say these things. He thinks that it is, like, it's not a bad word. Like, he looks at these swear words as not being bad words. And, one day, like, we both were going to the masjid, and, like, he was, like, closing the door, and he forgot to take the key, and he said the F word. I was surprised. Like, I was, like, mind blown. I became cold. Like, I was just standing there on my feet, and I couldn't, like, what is happening here? What is happening here? And I was very shocked to actually see this. Very shocked to actually see this. And I basically talked to him after that. And then I understood for him that this was not a swear word, because he doesn't know the meaning of this. It's being so normalized in the society that these poor guys, like, they're thinking that this is a normal word. This is a normal word. Subhanallah. A lot of young kids, a lot of little children, they also fall into the same thought process. If you look at the small kids, and let me ask you another thing. Do you think small kids are using swear words? Do you think small kids are using swear words? A lot of them. Like, this is also a very, strange thing as well. A lot of these parents, recently, last week, I think it was, I talked to a brother, an elder brother. He wanted, like, first I talked to his, younger brother, and I don't want to give more information, but, I basically asked him, his school life, and, a lot of these things. It was for a particular case, and he basically, like, when we got to this particular point, like, he basically said, like, he basically uses swear words like 50% of the time, not in home, but while he's in school. Like, he basically, like, this is a very normal way of communication. All right. And then afterwards, I talked to his brother, someone, who is elder to him in his own family. And what they're basically thinking is, okay, my kid is very innocent. He doesn't know anything. He's going to school. He's coming back. And that's all they're saying. While these kids in school, like, they're doing and saying things that are the most aside. And there's a, like, difference between their lifestyle in school and in home. Like, this is a reality in many of the homes. Parents don't know what their kids are doing these days. Parents really don't know what their kids are doing these days. Anyway, what I'm saying is there are a lot of kids who don't know the meaning of what they say, who don't know the meaning of what they say, who don't know the meaning of what they're saying. And this is justified and made excuses in their minds, right? That is one category. And then there is another category who know the meaning, right? Who know the meaning of what they say, of what they're saying, and they basically say that they don't mean it. Have you heard people saying that? I know the meaning, but I don't really mean, like, the meaning, or I don't really mean what it, like the semantics of the word. Like what kind of a stupid argument is that? Like that is really, really baseless. It's literally baseless. Saying swear words, it is clearly a haram. If you say it with meaning or without meaning, it's still a haram, it's a sin. All right, it is a sin. So we got to protect our mouths from spitting words that are haram. All right. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reported the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When I say Prophet Muhammad, what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say? Sallallahu alayhi wasallam, right? Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So make sure you say it. Verily, the servant may speak a single word for which he plummets into the hellfire farther than the distance between the east and the west. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. This is a very, very scary hadith. It's both in Sahih Bukhari 6477 and Sahih Muslim 2988. You just said a single word for which you plummeted into the hellfire farther than the distance of east and west, like thousands of kilometers deeper into the hellfire because of a single word. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. This is the reality, my dear brothers and sisters. We've got to be really, really careful about the words that we spit from our mouths and the words that we speak. To make sure you don't use any swear words while you speak. Whether you know the meaning or not, whether you mean the meaning or not, regardless, don't say the swear words. And do you think you'll respect a person who says swear words? Will a person get respect if he says swear words? Do you think people are going to respect him? Never. Never. He may think that everyone is looking at him as he's cool or something, but no, nobody's going to respect him. Like that is a reality. Nobody's going to respect him. And we have been fed with this brainwashed thought that if you need to appear cool, like you gotta use swear words. Most often through the media, through the music industry, like this is being infiltrated into our minds and injected into our veins and influences our minds so much so that we don't understand the reality and how to form a distinction between the right and wrong. Al-farqu bayna al-haqq wal-batil. This is completely disintegrated in our minds so much so that we don't understand the basics of morality. So we got to understand that using swear words is a very, very grave thing, and we got to stay away from it. We got to stay away from it. Then the other major, problem that we see with a lot of men, right? Yes, with regards to women also it's there, but this is most often, it usually or majorly affects men, and that is taking a haram glance, All right. Inna Allah ya'lamu kha'inat al-a'yun wa ma tukhfi sudur. Allah knows even the little glances that you took and what your heart hides. You may think that the little 1 millisecond of glance that you took is not that huge thing. Well, it is a huge thing. It is a major thing. It is a great thing. It is a wild thing. It is extremely dangerous for your spirituality. Especially in colleges. Like you just get disgusted at the way these men, these are not boys. If you're above 18, like you are men, you're literal men, and you take those little glances and you give comments about your opposite gender. Subhanallah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It is repulsive. It is disgusting. It is repulsive and it is disgusting. You see a lot of men engaging in this. And often in their minds, they just justify it to themselves, saying that it's not a big crime. It's not a big problem. I pray 5 times a day and I do tawbah, so it's all right. It is not all right. It is not all right. It is a huge, huge problem. While you're traveling in the bus, while you're driving your bike, while you're driving your car, and there's a billboard of some woman, and most often these billboards, like they depict women. Why do you think they depict women? Have you ever asked this question? If you have studied consumer psychology, you will very clearly understand this. It is a marketing technique. What do you think men are attracted to? Out of everything in this world, men are mostly attracted to what? Tell me, what? Woman. That is basic masculine psychology. For some people, it might seem very vulgar. But this is a mentoring session. I'm shooting facts straight forward, and you're going to understand this. A lot of women, they don't understand this. But men, they understand what I'm talking about. Recently when there was a discussion about men and women, sitting together. All right. Men and women sitting together. A lot of these women, they were saying, it is all right. What is the problem? And yes, Like, it is very understandable from their perspective. The way women look at platonic relationship is very, very different from how a man looks at platonic relationship. This is basic masculine psychology, but these people, they don't understand this. They don't understand this. And these feminists say, like, what is the problem? These liberals, justify it. But if you look at men, and let me do, a help for the woman here, for the woman who still find it hard to believe this. For the men here, let me ask you this question. For the men here, let me ask you this question, and I want all men here to answer this very clearly. And this can be a huge help to the sisters here who are still not able to believe what I'm saying. Let me ask you, do you think it is possible for you to stay friends with a woman? Do you think it is possible for men to maintain close friendship with a woman without having sexual feelings? I want men here to answer. It is not possible. Like, if you don't have, if you have some hormonal problems, then that is a huge different thing. But then, like, for men, this is basic masculine psychology. Like, it is not possible for a man. At the same time, a lot of these hypocritic liberal men, they try to justify it. They try to justify it, right? And we have heard this sky falling fallacy. Like, a lot of people saying, if men and women sit together, is the sky going to fall? That's a very idiotic argument in of itself. Anyway, so what I'm basically saying is, those little glances, what you took thinking that it's very small, it is problematic. And where did we go on tangent? Yeah, we went on a tangent in consumer psychology, right? So in consumer psychology, like, it's very clear while they are using this woman, and basically they are objectifying women. They are objectifying women, and ironically, the feminists, we don't see them opposing it. We don't see the feminists opposing it. But at the same time, if a woman wears a hijab, then the feminists will start opposing that, saying that it is oppression and suppression. While on the other side, a woman is getting sexually exploited and objectified, they don't even speak out loud on that. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this hypocrisy. Anyway, coming back to the topic, glancing at a woman with desires, even if it is a microsecond glance, it is haram. It is haram, and we gotta form this concrete base in our minds. For the men here, form this concrete base in your minds. Don't look at a woman. Don't look at a woman. Okay, the first glance may be unconsciously, by mistake, it is all right. It is forgiven. It is forgiven. All right. At the same, like the second glance that you take, it is not forgiven. All right. It is a sin. You got to do tawbah for that. Okay, so don't ever justify the sin. Your justification is far a bigger sin than you committing that sin. And this is a very, very important point. You committing a sin is a sin in of itself, but at the same time, you justifying that sin is a bigger sin. Because first, you're actually you're basically violating your nafs. You're going against yourself. When you're justifying that sin, you're basically going against the entire sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is a huge, huge crime. And we know the story of Shaitan and Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Adam alayhi salatu wasalam and Shaitan both committed sins. Right? In chapter number 2, verse number 36, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَزَلَّهُمَ الشَّيْطَانُ عَنْهَا فَأَخْرَجَهُمَا مِمَّا كَانَ فِيهِ. Right? What is there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Adam alayhi salatu wasalam fell. But what happened after that? فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ فَتَابَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ التَّوَّابُ الرَّحِيمُ. What did Adam alayhi salatu wasalam do? He did tawbah. He asked Allah for forgiveness. He said, Ya Allah, what I did was wrong. Please forgive me. He was very sincere and genuine in the way he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. But what happened for Shaitan? Shaitan, he committed a big crime. In chapter number 2, verse number 34. وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ. Aba wastakbar means like he was very arrogant. And after committing the sin, you know what he said? خلقتني من التراب وخلقته من النار وخلقته من تراب. Ya Allah, you made that creation with soil, with mud, while you created me with fire. I am superior to him, so why should I bow down to him? Like, he's basically doing what? He's justifying his sin. And that is the reason why Iblis was thrown out. That is why Iblis was damned to hellfire, right? But Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he did not go through this justification process. So we understand how serious of a crime justifying your sins is. All right, doing a crime is one thing, but never ever justified, my dear brothers and sisters. Never ever justified. If you're a person who's having trouble, like who's having some mental challenge with regards to wearing the hijab, if you think that wearing hijab is very hard for you, at least don't justify it. Okay, at least don't justify it in your minds. All right, that is a very, very great thing. If you are watching pornography or whatever, engaging in masturbation, which are huge problems, huge crimes, don't justify it in your minds. There are a lot of guys and girls who go for fatwa shopping, right? They are doing a sin. Now, to get out of that regret in their heart, they go for fatwa shopping. So what they do is they go to Google and they type in, is this halal? Is this haram? And of course, like the majority opinion is obviously going to be, it is haram. But at the same time, they search and search and search a lot. They do an entire research, like which would probably can be converted into a PhD thesis, a postdoctoral thesis. They spend hours and hours searching and searching and searching. And maybe in some corner of the world, some guy, with the name Mufti, probably in some corner of North Pole, he'll be having some internet connection. He might have typed in something with some, incorrect quotation to some hadith, and then he'll come to the conclusion that this is halal. And then you say, click, yes, Eureka, I've got it. I've got my ticket. Now I can engage in this haram. Like, what in the world is going on? What are you doing? What are you doing? You doing that process, like that in of itself is a bigger crime than you committing the sin. So never ever justify to yourself. All right? Never ever justify it to yourself. This is very, very important. It's very, very important. And then another thing that is often overlooked is this littering. Now let me ask you, is littering a sin? Is littering a sin? I would say like this is one of the most overlooked thing. This is like one of the most overlooked thing. And like it's very, very shocking. I traveled to North India. Specific parts of Delhi, where like majority Muslim population, and you just get shocked at seeing the lack of uncleanliness that is being maintained here. Subhanallah. And like this is very least talked about. This is very, very least talked about. A lot of us neglect. I'm not pointing towards North India, all right? I have a lot of North Indian friends. Okay, I'm not, for the people who are in North India, don't feel bad. I'm not just pointing at you. What I'm saying is like this is there in all Muslim societies, many Muslim societies, right? Littering, like this is not even talked about. This is least talked about. Littering itself is a problem. It's a huge problem. All right, it can be considered as a sin. It can be considered as a sin. Because what are you doing? You're basically destroying the environment. You're basically causing harm to the society. You're causing harm to the environment. You're causing harm to the biosphere. You're causing harm to the globe as a whole. So that is a problem, and we should not overlook it. We should not overlook it. Sometimes when we buy 7-Up, Coca-Cola, or whatever drinks you're buying, and juice and the sweets and chocolates, and after you eat it, what do you do? If you don't see a garbage nearby, what do? What should you be doing? What should you be doing? Put it in your pocket. All right, put it in your bag. And when you see a garbage can, put it there or take it home and do whatever other than littering that place. Okay, do whatever other than littering that place. So we got to be very, very mindful of this. Very, very mindful of this. And often I've seen this, like when we are going in car, I do remember very specifically, was traveling with a few of my relatives to a certain place, was a long drive. And I was also, like very young at that time. Maybe my response was a bit immature at that time, but we were driving, and obviously we were having, like, since it's a long drive, we were also having food in the car. And what basically happened after that was, like, they took a cover, like everyone was putting their waste to that cover and just throwing it out of the car. I got so angry. That was a very immature response. I shouldn't have gotten angry, but I was very young at that time. But like when I said, like, why are you throwing it outside? Like when I just blasted, like, many of them were surprised. Like, why are you so serious on this? Like, this is not a big problem. Like, this is not a big problem. Why do you even care? Right? Why do you even care? Like, that is the mentality of the people. That littering is not even seen as a problem. Of course, like, another advice I would like to say is, And there's also something that I learned from my life. That is, if you see someone doing something wrong, getting angry at them is never a solution. All right, getting angry at them is never a solution. It can break relationships. If your friends are engaging in something haram, don't just blast at them. All right, don't just blast at them. All right, and the way that I dealt with this particular situation, I think it was in 9th standard or 10th standard. I was like a teenager, and obviously there were other factors here as well. So what I'm saying is, getting angry at them is never a solution. Try to advise them, try to deal with them with kindness and with mercy. Talk to them as a friend. All right. Now, what I'm basically coming back at is littering is a huge problem that is most often overlooked. And the small sins seem very insignificant, but when put together, they are very, very destructive. And each sin you commit contributes to the hardening of the heart. Hardening of the heart, right? So much so that like your heart has become so hard that light does not enter it. Light does not enter it. In chapter number 2, verse number 74, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ثُمَّ قَصَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. Your hearts have become like rocks, Subhanallah. أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً, or harder than rocks. Harder than rocks. That's how hard, our hearts have become. Our hearts have become. So these small sins, they affect us. Each sin that we commit, it puts a black dot on our heart. And also, sins, however small it is, it has consequences. Okay, it can be directly or indirectly. It can be in the dunya or in the akhirah. All right, if you don't get it in the dunya, obviously you're going to get it in the akhirah. It can be in the form of certain things, certain sicknesses. Certain sicknesses. Maybe Allah will punish you with cancer. God knows. God knows. Understand that the sins that you commit have consequences. The sins you commit has consequences. All right. It can be in this life or in the akhirah. So do tawbah. Say astaghfirullah. Say astaghfirullah. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Look back into your life and look at each white lie that you said. Look at each small glances that you took. Look at small of these swear words that you said and you justified to yourself. Close your eyes now. I want everyone to do it. Close your eyes now. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Say astaghfirullah from the depth of your heart 10 times. And each time you say astaghfirullah, look back at one sin that you committed, that you thought was minor. I want everyone to do it with me. Astaghfirullah al-azim. 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 Now breathe in and breathe out and open your eyes slowly. If you're finished doing that, say yes in the chat. Say yes in the chat. Allah indeed accepts tawbah that are done very, very sincerely. It is that easy. It is that easy. So do tawbah as much as you can. Because these sins, we may have committed them knowingly or unknowingly. So protect yourself. Now we're going to be discussing about the effects of the sin. What are the effects of sins? This is also a very, very important topic that is very, very least discussed. We usually say to people, okay, this is haram, this is halal. This is haram, this is halal, but most often they don't know what effects of these are. They don't know what the effects of these are. And then on the other end, we have people like who justify their sins by using scientific arguments, saying that what the sin they're doing is healthy. All right, like that's a whole different category of people, like these liberals. We had a recent, there was a poster that I saw about a particular political party, and I think I did mention it in the earlier session as well, that they were basically trying to justify, giving scientific arguments for pornography. Subhanallah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So on the one end, we have people who are justifying sins with these arguments and saying that these sins are good. But at the end, let me ask you, like, who would you trust more? Would you trust some liberal, pseudo-scientific, secular atheist? Or would you trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Who do you trust? Who do you trust? On the one end, Allah is saying that this is wrong. And on the other end, like the liberal, secular, pseudo-scientific atheists are saying that this is good, you should do it. And this is a question of Iman. If you're saying this atheist, then of course, like you are doing kufr here. You're doing kufr here. As Muslims, what we're supposed to do, we trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If on the one side Allah says something, on the other side, this atheist says something, we trust and we go with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. We go with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Now, when Allah has made certain things haram as sins, it obviously means that it has effects on you. Allah doesn't make something haram just for the sake of making it haram. All right, it means it has bad consequences. It has bad consequences. Regardless if the entire world says that it is all right, if Allah says that it's wrong, then it is wrong. If Allah says that it is haram, it is obviously going to have bad consequences. It is obviously going to have bad consequences. And number one of it is a spiritual consequence with regards to prevention of knowledge. If you are a talibul ilm, if you want to memorize the Holy Quran, if you want to acquire knowledge, and you're committing sins on the other side, you're never going to have that light of knowledge. Knowledge is a light which Allah throws into the heart, or Allah pours into the heart, and disobedience extinguishes this light. Disobedience extinguishes this light. So if you want to acquire knowledge, committing sin is never ever going to work out for you. It'll prevent you, it'll block you, it'll stop you. It'll form an iron wall from you and knowledge. From you and knowledge. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, I complained to Waqi' about the weakness of my memory. So he ordered me to abandon disobedience and inform me that knowledge is light and that the light of Allah is not given to the disobedient. Is not given to the disobedient. If you want to acquire knowledge, stop committing sins. Stop committing sins. And this is Imam al-Shafi'i. What sin do you think Imam al-Shafi'i is committing? Right? SubhanAllah, Imam al-Shafi'i, one of the most pious people. Like the sin that Imam al-Shafi'i might have looked at as sin, like it won't even be considered as a sin for us. We may not even be thinking that it's a sin. We may not even be thinking as a sin. Or maybe getting up late for the tahajjud. Maybe that's what he's looking at as something that is huge from his eyes. Because these are very, very pious people. These are very, very pious people. And even to Imam al-Shafi'i, Waqi' is saying, abandon sins. Abandon sins. Allah does not give light to those people who are committing sins. So this is a huge, huge thing. If you commit sins, knowledge will be prevented from you. And number two is the prevention of such sins. A lot of people, they don't know this. They don't know this. If you commit sins, the risk that Allah wanted to give to you, He'll block it from you. He'll block it from you. Just like taqwa brings sustenance, the abandonment of taqwa causes poverty. If we commit a lot of sins, if we commit a lot of sins, then the risk will be stopped from you. The risk will be stopped from you. In Surah An-Nuh, I think it is, فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا يُرْسِلِ السَّمَاءَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِدْرَارًا وَيُمْدِدْكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ جَنَّاتٍ وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ أَنْهَارًا. Like these verses very clearly show that if you do istighfar, if you do good righteous things, Allah will reward you. Allah will reward you with rizq. Allah will reward you with rizq. When I'm saying this, often a doubt that comes to the mind of people is this. When they look around them, they see these movie stars and they see these politicians that are very corrupt. They're very corrupt, but at the same time, they're very rich as well. They have a lot of risk. They're very, very rich. They have huge homes. They have hundreds of cars. Have you ever had this doubt? Or while I was saying this, did this thought come up in your mind? Here it says that, abandonment of taqwa causes poverty. At the same time, when we look around ourselves, that we see a lot of these people who are committing probably thousands of sins, being very rich and having a lot of risk. The thing is, these people, the wealth that they have, number one, it is not going to have that barakah. And number two, Allah is actually giving them leisure time on this planet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala very clearly says this in the Quran itself. He says, for the people who are committing sins and sins and sins upon sins, Allah will open up their way in this dunya, because the punishment that they're going to get in the akhirah is going to be multitudes. Anyway, in the akhirah, they're going to be suffering with pain. So from Allah's giving them a little leverage and leverage on this dunya, So there is nothing which can bring about sustenance like the abandonment of disobedience. If you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously your rizq is going to be affected. So for us as Muslims who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the way in which we are going to be punished for lack of, obedience is going to be maybe, our sustenance is going to be stopped. Maybe, Allah wanted to bless you with a lot of wealth. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to bless you with a good spouse, a good wife, or a good husband. But because of that little glances that you took, but because of the sins that you committed, but because of the haram relationship that you got yourself into, Allah might have cut it off. Maybe Allah wanted to give you a very wonderful spouse who had the best in the dunya and the akhirah, but that was cut off because of what you did. Because of what you did. So you are causing your own destruction by committing these sins. So say astaghfirullah again and again. Look at that particular sin. When I was saying this, obviously you would have thought about a particular sin you committed. So think about that sin again and say astaghfirullah 10 times from the depth of your heart. Do it now. Do it now. A lot of people, they just say, I'll ask for forgiveness later. I'll do tawbah later. As if you're guaranteed life. Come on. Let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. So say astaghfirullah 10 times from the depth of your heart, and after doing it, say yes in the chat. Astaghfirullah al-azim. 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 So finally, we need to understand that our sins have consequences which affects our life directly or indirectly. So be very, very, very conscious of this. Be very conscious of this. Number 3 is this. The prevention of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prevention of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of people think that they not being able to wake up for tahajjud, maybe is because they slept late. Maybe it's because of this, particular problem. They did not do this and they did not do that. Maybe it is Allah preventing you from doing it. Tahajjud is a huge blessing. Tahajjud is a huge gift. You think you're going to get that gift very, easily? Of course no. Of course no. So maybe Allah will prevent you from doing something that is really good for you in your spiritual terms because of a sin that you committed. So that is another consequence of sin. If there was no other punishment for sin other than what it prevents one from the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that would be sufficient. That would be sufficient, right? So you not being able to get up for your tahajjud might be a punishment because you're missing out on a lot of rewards. You're missing out on a lot of good spiritual and psychological. And in the session we had about tahajjud, we very deeply discussed about the benefits of tahajjud. And a person who misses tahajjud is missing out on a lot of these benefits. For the people who missed out on that session, you can go to the ISIP channel on YouTube and watch it. Person who misses tahajjud after that, like you're missing out on a lot of rewards, a lot of benefits. The 4th consequence is, sins weaken the heart's will. Heart's resolve will increase. The desire for disobedience becomes strong and the desire to repentance becomes very weak bit by bit until the desire to repent is removed from the heart completely. Excuse me. So what I'm basically saying is, the more you disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more weaker your heart becomes. The more lies that you say, the more easier it becomes to lie. The more you don't control your gaze, the more easier it becomes to fall into bigger major crimes such as zina. The more you don't control your heart and your mind and your actions and your body from these sins, that you'll just be dragged into bigger sins and you won't even feel that sense of pain. Your heart will become desensitized. Your heart will become desensitized. For example, with regards to the pornography addiction, in psychology, we studied 4 steps or 4 stages that a person goes through when he's getting addicted and addicted. And one of these stages is called as desensitization. And if you look at various case studies of pornography addicts, what we usually see is, at the start, when a person is by mistakenly or unconsciously viewing such stuff, they have a lot of pain in their heart. There are a lot of pain in their heart. But the more and the more they do it, do you think the pain is going to increase or decrease? The pain is going to increase or decrease? What do you think? It is going to decrease. And this is a very, very clear consequence of the sin. The more you sin, the harder your heart becomes, and you won't feel that kind of pain in your heart. You won't feel that kind of pain in your heart, right? And number 5 is trivializing of sins. We just talked about this, desensitization. The more sins you commit, the more you start to trivialize it. Trivializing basically means you look at the sin as not a sin. You say it's a very small thing, it's a very minor thing. Come on, like, why is it a big problem? Don't create a huge, like, don't be so concerned of it. Don't take it as, that seriously. Or people who joke by lying, like they say, oh, come on, man, I was just joking. I was just joking. Like, have you heard this? People joking while lying. And then after that, like when they're caught, like they say, come on, man, I was just joking. All right. I was just, having some fun time, jesting around, right? All these pranks, subhanallah. It's problematic. The more you do it, the more trivial other sins becomes, right? So the servant continues to commit sins until they become very easy for him. They seem very insignificant in his heart, and this is a sign of destruction. Every time a sin becomes insignificant in the sight of the servant, it becomes great in the sight of Allah. It becomes great in the sight of Allah. And this is a very, very, very scary hadith. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, indeed the believer sees his sins as if he was standing at the foot of a mountain, fearing that it will fall upon him. And the sinner sees his sins like a fly which passes by his nose, so he tries to remove it by waving his hand around. This shows the mindset. This shows the mindset. Some people, like, they just commit sins and they just, rub it off. All right, they just rub it off, saying, like, this is a very small thing. It's a very trivial thing. Like, nobody's going to care. It's not that serious. Don't be concerned. Don't be concerned, right? At the same time, real believers, they look at it with real serious consequences, because they know the reality, they know the haqq, and they look at even the small sins as the greatest of crimes. Lying becomes a great crime in their eyes. Lying becomes a great, great crime in their eyes. That is the mentality of the believer. That is the mentality of the believer. So if you need to understand the purity of your heart and the quality of your iman, then all you need to do is what? Look at your mindset and the way you are looking at sins. All right. And the 6th consequence is the sealing of the heart. The sealing of the heart. And this is a huge, huge, huge problem. A huge, huge, huge problem. Most of us, we may not even know that this is happening. Right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking about munafiqeen in chapter number 2, verse number 9, he said, ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة. Subhanallah, what does it mean? It means ختم الله على قلوبهم. There's a seal on their hearts. Like, their hearts are sealed. Their hearts are sealed. In chapter number 2, verse number 18, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, سُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجَعُونَ. سُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ. These people are deaf, dumb, and blind. Is that physiological dumbness and deafness and blindness? No. Their hearts have become deaf, dumb, and blind. Their hearts have become deaf, dumb, and blind. Like, they don't feel anything. Their hearts have become so hard. Chapter number 2, verse number 74, ثُمَّ قَصَتْ قُلُوبُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ ذَلِكُمْ. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Like, our hearts have become so hard. أو أشد قسوة, or harder than a rock. Harder than a rock. فهي كالحجارة أو شد قسوة. Harder than a rock. Harder than a rock. And we don't even feel, the sense of pain in our hearts. A sense of pain in our hearts while we're committing the sin. In chapter number 83, verse number 14. كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. Covering, but on their hearts is a ran. And what is ran? Ran basically is a covering of sins and evil deeds, which they used to earn. So because of the crimes they committed again and again and again, their hearts became covered. Their heart became hard. Their hearts became sealed. So this is a huge, huge problem. And the way to get out of this is to do tawbah as much as possible. Say astaghfirullah al-azim. Say astaghfirullah al-azim, and say astaghfirullah al-azim as much as possible. And the 7th consequence is actually the disappearance of modesty. The disappearance of modesty, and this is usually seen in a lot of college students. A lot of college students. I've seen this personally in many people as well. It's very, very sad. And that is this, they come to college. They might be practicing, they might be wearing hijab. And during the college festivals, and very soon you're going to have a very huge festival in your college, right? Like you're going to have DJ parties. I'm talking about the colleges in Kerala. Is there's going to be a huge celebration that's going to come. They're going to have, parties, DJ, free mixing and all these things. And let me tell you a trend that I've usually seen. A lot of these religious students who come to college, during the first year, they won't attend it. But they say to themselves, come on, I'm not supposed to attend this. They'll have that modesty in them. The girls, that are wearing hijab, when they see other girls dancing with boys during the celebration, like they'll have that sense of modesty in them, that sense of haya in them. They'll say to themselves, come on, I can't do this. I can't do this. As Muslims, we're supposed to have haya, right? That haya, that shamefulness, that shyness, it is going to be there. But the more they see it, the more celebrations they see, their friends participating with hijab, they get desensitized. So second year, like they'll start participating a little bit. And the more they participate, the less modesty they will have. So much so that in third year, while, coming out of the college, like they will have no problem absolutely whatsoever, sitting with the opposite gender, talking with them, joking with them, going for trips with the boys, and dancing with them, doing TikTok videos with them. Subhanallah, the haya has disappeared. The haya has completely disappeared. But this is a very, very sad reality. Are you able to relate to what I'm saying? Are you able to relate to what I'm saying? Have you seen such cases around you? I'm pretty sure if you are a college student, you would have seen that. That sense of haya has gone. Like it's completely gone. Like the person has become a totally different person. Like after 3 years of this education. Very, very sad reality. So the seventh consequence is no shame. Shamelessness will pull you to sins that you thought you would never do. You would never do. For example, like that shyness at first will stop you from sitting with the boys and joking with them, right? But the more like you justify to yourself, like you'll start sitting with the boys, or for the boys you'll start sitting with the girls. Now you just get used to it. Then relationship doesn't seem like a big problem to you, because lack of shame or lack of modesty, lack of haya will pull you to more deeper sins, The disappearance of modesty, which is the essence of life of the heart, is a basis of every good. Its disappearance is the disappearance of all that is good. It is authentic from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said, modesty is goodness and all of it. This is a sahih hadith. Al-haya kullahu khayr. Al-haya kullahu khayr, which is modesty is goodness, all of it. All of modesty is goodness. All right. An Arab poet, he said, and by Allah, there is no good in life or in the world when modesty goes. Modesty is a very, very valuable, precious thing that you have. If it is gone, it is gone, my brother, my sister. If it is gone, it is gone. While engaging in these college celebrations, you might think that is not a big problem. While on the other side, like your haya is being decreased. Like it's going, and after 3 years, like you'll be a completely different person. It'll be a completely different person, right? It's extremely, extremely scary. It's extremely scary. And the eighth point is this. Before going to the 8th point, let me, go back to the 7th point and let me dive a little more deep onto it. All right, because the celebrations are coming. Is going to be very soon, so I think this needs to be addressed, and we may not have other times to address this. So we might take a little bit more time today. All right. So the question is this: is it hard to not participate in these celebrations? Imagine that every single friend of yours is participating. They're doing these dress-ups, competitions in the college. They're calling you, come on. Like, this is not a big problem. We'll just celebrate. Come on. And you might think to yourself, okay, maybe, I'll just wear the dress code. I won't, engage in the free mixing and the dancing and all these things. But, maybe, I'll just, change my dress code. Like, what is the problem with that? What is the problem with that? And just like I mentioned earlier, like sins, like it's a path. If you take the first step, then you're surely going to take the next step. But that's how these things usually happen. When Allah was talking about zina, he did not directly say in the Quran, don't do zina, but rather he said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُ zina. Don't even go near it. Which means it's a path. It's step by step. In college, if you say that you're not going to come to the celebrations very directly, then you're going to be pressurized. You're going to be sidelined. You're going to be segregated. You're going to be discriminated. You're going to be insulted. You're going to be criticized. You're going to be opposed. You're going to be called different names. That is going to be very hard. It is going to be very hard. So let me ask, how can we deal with this? The celebration is going to come. So how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with this? Now, anyway, we'll be having a discussion in the Ummah group very soon, inshallah. So you can have a discussion on this particular question. But what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to get at is, you got to be very wise while dealing with this. All right? You got to be very wise while dealing with this. All right? You know, it is, recommended for you to stay away from all these celebrations. But the way you convey that needs to be done in a wise manner. Right? Do you think, you take a loudspeaker and you go to the college ground saying that it is haram, you are Muslim, shame upon you, aarun alayk, what are you doing? Now, is that how you're supposed to deal with this? No, right? No. Okay, if you get, criticized after that, then it's upon you. Like you basically caused it, right? You basically caused it. There's another way you got to deal with this, and it's a wise way, talking with people in a very, very nice manner. If you do it in a nice manner, of course, people are going to respect you. Of course, people are going to respect your, stance. And even after that, if people criticize you, then let them criticize. Okay, let them criticize. So there's a way to deal with these things. There's a way to deal with these things. It's a very wise way, and you can have a discussion on this in the upcoming Ummah discussion. But what I'm saying is, primarily, when these celebrations are going on, protect yourself. It's far better not to go. It's far better not to go. And alhamdulillah, sometimes I feel really happy, because sometimes during the college celebrations, while I look back into my college life, I was part of these organizations, and some of them I was heading these organizations. So it becomes very mandatory upon me to go, right? It becomes very, very mandatory upon me to go. And I would really not want to go, right? But if I don't go, then what happens? People obviously, there's going to be a lot of problems because I'm heading these organizations. So I was in a dilemma of what to do. I can't obviously tell lies, because lying itself is haram. But in that confusion, there was times my certain sicknesses or certain illnesses would come at the exact time of the celebrations. At the exact time of the celebrations, subhanAllah. I would consider these illnesses as blessings, but at least with that, it would stop me from going to these functions. Anyway, so what I'm basically saying is, protect yourself. It's always recommended to not attend these celebrations, because the celebrations might be for a day. The celebrations might be for a day, but the consequence of the sins may be for 10 years. All right. If you lose haya, then it's lost. It's very hard to rebuild. It's possible, but it takes time to rebuild this haya, right? It takes time to rebuild this haya. It takes time to rebuild piety, right? Okay. The eighth consequence is this: your sins motivate others to sin as well. Others to sin as well. Imagine you being a hijabi, you just dancing up and down in front of the college gate to DJ parties and music. Imagine that there may be, another poor girl, in your own college, who's very, trying her best to hold on to her religion, and she sees you dancing. What do you think she's going to feel? What do you think she's going to feel? That picture of you dancing will be there in her mind, and she'll try to justify this. She'll try her best to justify this, especially if she's your friend, right? It's going to motivate her to even do this, right? So this is the culture that we have. So understand that the sins that you commit may not be just one sin. It'll lead to a chain of sins. It'll lead to a chain of sins. Maybe in the akhirah, when you're standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you may just be thinking, okay, I committed that sin, I'm going to get punished for that. But then there might be thousands of people who might have committed the same sin because of you committed it. You committed it. You watching those, shameless videos on Instagram or other social media platforms, you may be thinking that you're committing the sin. Only you. No. When you watch certain stuff, obviously it's going to be recommended to more people because you watched it, because you liked it, because you subscribed to that channel. Subhanallah. So you're going to be indirectly responsible for a lot more sins, especially in the digital world. So protect yourself. Protect yourself. Your sins might motivate others to sin. So the one sin that you might be thinking of that you're doing might have turned into 1,000 sins or 1,000,000 sins or 1,000,000 sins. The ninth consequence is tested with punishments and removal of blessings. We already talked about this. You're going to be punished either here in the dunya or in the akhirah, and certain rizq, certain blessings will be taken away from you. And the 10th is this, that is the inability to find sweetness in halal. A lot of people, they say, when I'm standing for prayer, I'm not able to have khushu'. There was a certain message that I got, and it was when I posted the tahajjud reminder, if I think correctly, and the man was saying, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, anyway, they were saying, I've been trying to pray the tahajjud, but I'm not, getting that feeling. You're posting about feelings, you're posting about that khushu' and the sweetness, but I'm not able to feel it in my heart. I really want to feel it, but I'm not able to feel it. I'm not able to feel it. And the reason why you're not able to feel it is because certain haram things that you're doing, it is preventing you from experiencing the sweetness of Iman. My dear brother, if you want to taste the sweetness of Iman, if you want to enjoy your prayers, protect your eyes, protect your glances, and protect your gaze. My sister, if you want to taste that sweetness of Iman, protect your tongue, protect your gaze, and protect your behaviors. Protect your behaviors. For any person who wants to taste that sweetness of Iman, protect yourself. And if you protect yourself from the sins, you'll taste that halawa of Iman, that halawatul Iman, that taste and sweetness of that Iman. You'll be able to feel that. If you find sweetness in haram, forbidden things, Allah will take away the sweetness from the halal things, right? So this is the 10th consequence. This is the 10th consequence. Also, when you committed the sin, knowingly or unknowingly, always follow it up with a good deed. Always follow it up with a good deed. All right? The Prophet ﷺ said, have taqwa of Allah wherever you may be. Wherever you may be, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed, which will wipe it out, and behave well towards the people. Behave well towards the people. Our understanding of sin should be mobilizing and not debilitating. But not debilitating. Too often we respond to a sin by putting ourselves in a figurative corner and abusing ourselves psychologically until we get over that sin. This is not what Allah wants from us. From a lot of people, when they commit sins, they have a lot of regret in their heart. They have a lot of regret in their heart. A lot of regret in their heart. But then, this regret, it causes pain to them, and then they justify the sin through this pain. They consider the pain as a punishment, and they justify to themselves, okay, I've committed a sin, I got punished for it, now I can commit it again. Like this is a very strange justification a lot of people come to. So what I'm basically saying is, whenever you commit a bad deed, always follow it up with a good deed. So setting up a specific amount of good deed, which you must mandatorily do, will help you stay away from that sin. For example, say to yourself, if you take a haram glance, I will pray 13 rak'ahs at night. Now this may seem huge, but you can make it small. Tell to yourself, if I take a haram glance, I'm going to pray 2 rak'ah of sunnah. I'm going to pray 2 rak'ah of sunnah. So set up good deeds right after bad deeds that need to be done. If you do that, 2 good things will happen. Number 1, your bad deed will be forgiven. And number 2, like shaitan will not motivate you again to completely do the bad sin. Because shaitan knows if you do that, of course, you're going to turn back. So it's far better for you not to do it from shaitan's perspective, right? Right? It's basically a reverse psychology of shaitan. I don't want to use that term, reverse psychology of shaitan. Anyway, so what I'm basically saying is, try to apply this particular methodology. It will really, really help you stop your sins. It will really, really help you stop your sins, inshallah. Now, with regards to expiation of sins, being patient during times of illness will expiate your sins. Take wudu correctly. It will also help you, expiate your sins. There are a lot of, things. There are a lot of rituals in Islam. There are a lot of ibadat in Islam that, serves as expiation of sins. So try to learn more about it and try to engage in these rituals and ibadat. It will really, really help you. Big sins will start to seem small the more you engage in it. We talked about desensitization. This is a huge, huge problem. So check whether you have also fallen to this particular process of desensitization. And don't look at the insignificance of the sins, but look at the significance of who you are sinning against. You're sinning against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is not a small thing. The sin may be small, but the one who you are doing it against, that is what finally determines the seriousness. That is what finally determines the seriousness. All right. So know that haram is haram, even if the whole world does it. Even if the whole world does it. All right. Even if everyone is engaging in haram relationship, does it make it halal? Does it make it halal? If everyone is watching pornography, does it make it halal? No. So don't justify it within yourself. If everyone is dancing up and down and engaging in free mixing and all these things, doesn't make it halal. Haram is haram, even if the whole world is doing it. Halal is halal, even if you are the only one doing it. Right? Even if it's culture, halal is halal. Even if it is frowned upon, fard is fard. Even if it doesn't fit your schedule, shirk is shirk. All right? Even if it is respect. Even if it is respect. So try to protect yourself from haram. This is very, very important. And being in an environment where which haram is constantly done, it'll basically desensitize you. It'll basically desensitize you. Right? Being in a circle of bad friends, going to liberal colleges, exposing yourself to haram contents for entertainment, all this is going to have effects on you. It's going to basically desensitize you, so much so that you won't feel like it's a huge crime now. This is very commonly seen in drugs. If you have a circle of friends who are constantly doing drugs, do you think that there's a possibility of you also starting to do it? Do you think there's a possibility, a higher possibility? Regardless of, even if you think that I'm never going to do it, it's going to happen. Well, if you get desensitized, your mindset is going to change. All right. And understand that haram is haram for a reason. A lot of teenagers, they ask, why is this haram? Why is that haram? Understand that haram is haram for a reason. And that is that if you do that, you destroy yourself. You destroy your peace. You destroy your mental state. You destroy your physical self. Depression hits you. Anxiety is there. Allah has made them haram to protect you, to protect your soul, to protect your heart. All right. So know that there's a reason why everything that is made haram, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it. So know that and stay safe. And you're going to be held accountable for each and every sin you commit, whether it's major or minor. Whether it's major or minor. If you read Surah Al-Zilzal, it says that even if it is a small atom of a sin that you committed, you're going to be held accountable for it. So everything is recorded, each and everything. So whether it's small or big, so never ever trivialize. Never ever trivialize. And also, when I say this, some people go to OCD, obsession. All right, some people go to obsession. Know that Allah forgives sins that are done by mistake. So don't obsess over this. All right, but at the same time, don't trivialize it. Trivialize it. All right. When I usually say these things, like we see people on two different poles. On the one end, we have people who take it to extreme, right? Who take it to extreme so much so that they basically think that they are damned to hellfire forever because of a small glance that they have taken. No, don't think like that. Don't obsess over it. Do tawbah and move on. Do tawbah and move on. All right. At the same time, on the other end, we see people who trivialize it, the liberals. All right. So protect yourself from the sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from these minor sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the mindset of liberals. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from engaging in celebration activities in our colleges that defy haya, that basically take away iman from our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from these sins, major or minor. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for each and every sin that we have committed. For each and every sin we have committed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us all in Jannah. And before directly ending, the big pro tip for this week is this. The mistake that you commit, it is obviously a mistake, but don't obsess over it and don't beat up yourself for it. All right? The mistake should be your teacher. If you commit a mistake, take a lesson from that mistake and then move ahead. Take lesson from that mistake and move ahead. A mistake should be your teacher, not your attacker. It should not destroy your mental state. A mistake is a lesson, not a loss. It is a temporary, necessary detour, not a dead end. It is not the end of all. If your heart is breathing, if your heart is beating and if your lungs are breathing, that means the game is not over. That means you still have a chance, you still have an opportunity, you still have a choice. So improve yourself, develop yourself, advance in life, and that is the final aim of the IPD, Islamic Personality Development course. Make sure you're attending the task on a clear basis, because the final output of the course is going to be based on, of course, the insights that you got for the sessions, but at the same time, the commitment you had to the task and the consistency with regards to that. So make sure you stick to the task as much as possible. Make sure you post the audio assignment and the video assignment today. Tomorrow, you're going to have the discussion in the COJ Ummah group with regards to the celebrations and how to tackle the celebrations. And more, insightful posts and informative posts are going to be posted in the COJ Companions of Jannah Instagram page. So if you still haven't followed the Instagram page, make sure to follow it. It will help you a lot, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all and protect us all from both major and minor sins. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إننا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عمل يقرب إلى حبك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. That was indeed a very insightful and very eye-opening session. Jazakallah khair, Brother Wafi. Now I would like to call upon Brother Nabil for the conclusion talk.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So this was an amazing and wonderful session, mashallah. Jazakallah khair, Sir Wafi, for this beautiful session. Jazakallah khair, Sister Fadiya, for moderating, and Sister Ifat for beautiful recitation, and Sister Sahla for wonderful introduction. Jazakallah khair every participants who have gathered here and attended this session with patience. This session was really an eye-opening session. So we don't have to take minor sins lightly. When we take something so lightly, we in our nature, we continue to repeat it until finally it becomes a habit. We are desensitized to it. We are not sensitive to it anymore, and so it becomes normal part of our life. And then they can become responsible to throw us in Jahannam. May Allah saves us from every minor sins. May Allah keeps away us from hellfire and its every small to small punishment. Ameen. So in every dua, the order is hidden. So we have to understand and implement the order. I hope all of you have benefited from the session. Jazakallah khair once again for attending this session. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إني أسألك العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.